This is the final word. It's season 19. It's episode 5, the weekly edition of the show with Geoff Lemon and Bharat Sundaresan. We have the news. We have the news. The show is brought to you by Maurice Blackburn, the number one plaintiff law firm in Australia. We've got the squad. We were waiting for the squad, the Australian Ashes squad. We'll go through that. We've got an England contracts list, central contracts for the next couple of years. We've got some fairly bizarre bits and pieces of news from around the cricket world, jumping from Zimbabwe to Ravichandran Ashwin's training camp to Kane Williamson's curious decision-making, and on it goes. And we also have the aftermath of the Women's World Cup that has just wrapped up. Bharat, first of all, welcome to the show. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again, Geoff Lemon. I think in this interim between the last time we recorded and now, I did what every true blue Australian should do, which is not saying true blue, but I was on Offsiders and I was the mug punt. So I had to choose 3 horses based on just color or whatever reason I had to choose them with. I picked 3 horses, which the 2 experts who I shared the stage with, or the show with, or the room with, the studio with, did not pick, which was a good thing. That meant that, I wasn't picking any of the winners. And then one of the least likeliest picks ever, Goody Two Shoes, finished second. So I think it's one of the proudest moments of my life. Yeah. So my main pick was One Smooth Operator because, of course. But Goody Two Shoes was my second choice. And Goody Two Shoes finished second. And, it was one of those, like, shock. It was like Kenya finishing third in the 2003 World Cup, or one of those really random picks. So I think I've arrived in the horse racing world. So from the Mumbai Derby 15 years before this to now, nearly picking Melbourne Cup winners, I've come a long way.
Goody Two Shoes with Collins Obuya on board, steering through a crowded field to an unexpected finish.
5-wicket haul as well, as he rode them to near glory against Sri Lanka.
Remarkably, Collins Obuya started as a leg spinner and then became a batter. Nobody's done that.
He did.
Nobody's ever done that before. That path has never been trod. Nope.
No.
Can't think of one.
Even if you are blonde and you are white, you haven't done that. Nobody has.
You still couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Remarkable. Well, I'm glad you had a successful week burnishing your credentials like George Coulthard, who was a football and cricket umpire in the 1880s, who on his deathbed predicted a Melbourne Cup winner that everybody bet on. And if you want to find out how that worked out, you've got to read the story in our book, because we have a book, the Final Word book, based on story time that Adam and I have written. Contains 22 of our favourite stories. It's coming out soon. The official release is at the end of the month, but the pre-orders are already available, so you can find all the links for that if you want to pre-order it for Christmas for somebody else, or just order it for yourself, or just order 10 copies and give them away to people who look like they need something to read on the bus. Why not?
Yeah.
Be community-minded. Most centrally, the thing that's coming up is the launch in London first on the 10th of November. The Melbourne launch is the 27th of November. If you are free, if you're in the UK, if you're somewhere within cooey of London, please come down. It's at the Jolly Gardeners pub in Vauxhall, which is near the Oval. It'll be a fun night. Adam and I will both be there, and there are details also in the show notes. If you could RSVP, that would be helpful for planning purposes.
Beautiful. I won't be there in London, but maybe I'll be there in Melbourne. So, and maybe there will be a story or two that I might have narrated or brought to story time over the years. You never know. You'll have to find out. You have to read the book.
I haven't done a census on. We picked out. I mean, it was quite a big job to whittle down the stories from.
Yeah. Of course.
I don't know. Literally, there must be well over 1,000 stories on Storytime by now. To bring that down to a list of, we had a short list of about 150, which had to become 20 and 22 in the end. 2 cricket teams, I suppose, but. Yeah, I haven't actually tallied up who did which one. So you may have one in there. You may well, as part of the lifeblood of Storytime, Bharat. And we've been happy to have you. Let's talk, before we get into Ashes, briefly on the Women's World Cup that's wrapped up. And Lacuna Sports were a great supporter of that. Thank you to them. India won. What's been the vibe with your connections back to the homeland, with the way that things have been panning out, the conversations people have been having with you? Is this a brave new dawn? Are we about to see the total overturning of the gender hierarchies of India, or at least are we going to see something more positive? Something, a shift that might allow more girls to be able to play in the first place, to then become the women who will play for India in the future.
Well, it has been pretty insane, honestly. I thought like, yeah, if India do go on to win the World Cup, and once they beat Australia in that game and the way they did it as well with Jamie Rodriguez, you kind of there was this inevitability to India winning, even though for a while where Laura Fulfart was batting, it was like, ugh, like because South Africa really pulled this off. Though the moment like India went past 250, I remember messaging a couple of South African fans who were there at the final saying, "Yeah, I think the game's done. Yeah, it just never looked like they were going to get up to nearly 300 is what they had to make, or 299."
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, just firstly to see the DY Patil Stadium, which I'm very familiar with, to be that full for a game, and it felt like it felt like you're watching just an Indian team play. It didn't matter whether it was men or women. Like I remember covering the 2013 World Cup. And yes, India didn't make the final, but I covered the final, Australia West Indies. But even India matches in that tournament at CCI, which is probably even more accessible for more people, and even for office goers. Only a few of the stands were left open, so because people didn't expect too many people to come, and they did not. So how much it's transformed the interest with this Indian women's team. And the other thing I was reminded of, Geoff, before we get to what it's been like, is when I was still working for the Indian Express, we used to do something called Express Adda, where we used to have famous guests, and all the socialites would be there in the audience, and it was me hosting Harmanpreet Kaur and Poonam Raut, who was vice captain I think in 2017, made a lot of runs, and just and Diana Adilji, and all three of them speaking about how they just nearly missed that glory of beating England in the final. And even 8 years ago, it felt like that didn't really have too much of an impact. I mean, India was excited that they beat Australia, but that's about it. They were very pessimistic, understandably, about whether it's going to really make a big difference going forward. In the interim, obviously, there's been WPL, and India have done well in a couple of other tournaments as well. But I think this is going to be significant for cricket, women's cricket, and I think there will be. Now there are heroes, right? Like, yeah, and there are more, and I think it'll be the middle class families of India will now push. Speaking to a couple of my cousins who were there, one of them, I don't consider them to be big cricket fans, but they ended up going to the ground, taking their daughter along, and watching that game. So those kinds of things really warm my heart, where I feel like if middle class India can really accept the sport, that does not happen very often. So for now, for middle class India to accept this is very, very, very promising, because more and more girls will start coming through from different parts of the country, and I think it'll be something very special, because you have heroes to look up to, right? I mean, 1983 was a long time ago, and it was a different India back then, but still, the likes of Kapil Dev and Ravish Shastri, even though he didn't play in the final, and so many others, Mahendra Amarnath, and all of them. Oh, Michael Alden lost the school in the end. Like, that moment really transformed cricket. I think this is going to do that for women's cricket.
I hope so. That's certainly the optimistic look at this point. Ashes squad, we've got it. It's here. And the premier, Jake Weatherald, is in. Jake's Ashes, you heard it first on the Final Word. Months ago, I said Jake Weatherald's Ashes for the first time, and people thought it was a joke. I kind of thought it was a joke, but it's not a joke. It's here. It's happened. He's in the squad. And I would like to get your read on this as someone who, I mean, he's not playing for South Australia now, but he did for a time. And so obviously you're connected then synaptically, intimately. You can read his brainwaves and that kind of thing. I've been reading stuff. I've been reading people's responses to the squad, going, well, wonder what will happen with the 11. Is Labuschagne going to open and so on? Like, no, none of that's going to happen. It seems very, very clear to me what's happening with the 11. They wouldn't have picked Weatherald in the squad if he's not opening. He's opening with Khawaja. That's what's happening. Labuschagne's also in the squad, which means he's batting at 3. He's not there as a spare bat. That's set. There's been like, oh, well, will Green and Webster both play? No, they won't. They can't, because those 3 will play at the top, which means there's only one spot, which is 6, because it'll be Smith, Head, Spot. And the spot will go to Green, because Green can, like, people are saying, well, he hasn't been bowling, but he's been past fit to bowl.
He has.
He could bowl. They've been being careful with him, but they will have him bowl in the test. He bowls faster than Webster. He makes more runs than Webster. He's the project player, right, who they've been trying to turn into whatever they're trying to turn him into for the last 5 years. So I don't see any ambiguity about what the 11 is. That's clearly the top 6. Carey's clearly the keeper, and the bowlers are clearly Stark, Hazelwood, Boland, Lyon. So the 11's set as far as I can see. Would you concur with that assessment?
Very much so. And, I'm not your regular I told you so guy, but, I named the 11. I mean, obviously that Cummins in it, because this is before Cummins was ruled out. Back in August, I know I became the villain of Tasmania because I left Bo Webster out. Even though I picked it, I know Jake Weatherald is not from Tasmania, nor does he live there. But he plays for them, and I picked him in the playing 11, but Tasmanians just forgot about that. They just cared about Slug from Snug. And it wasn't a random just throwaway pick either. I mean, he's done everything that is expected of him. And I want to start with the Weatherall versus Renshaw debate. And again, not to be smart assy, but clearly it's a sign of people not following the Sheffield Shield very closely. The fact that Renshaw was being spoken of so much as he could get in there and all of that, because you just look at the last 2.
Khawaja was trying to get him a gig.
I mean, but also on Khawaja, on that answer, he was playing for Queensland. This is while Khawaja is playing for Queensland, and the question was, I've spoken to Robert Craddock since, who was there at that press conference. Might have even been the guy who asked him that. What else can Khawaja say? He was asked clearly, would you want Renshaw to open? He can't say no chance. No. While he's playing for Queensland,
he could say, "I'm not a selector."
Yeah, cricketers love to say that, but I think Uzi has reached a point in his life where it looks like he's just going to...
He would like to be a selector.
He would love to be a selector. Firstly, select himself to start with. There could be a time in 2-3 test matches time. Who knows how this is going to go, right? Hopefully, he gets through and he has that big farewell in Sydney, but you never know. I think Renshaw was...
I reckon he's got 4 innings. I think if he doesn't make a run in the first 4 hits, he's in real strife.
He's in trouble. Yeah. And then maybe you can talk about Renshaw or whoever. But so Renshaw averaged 27 last summer. He averaged, I think, 34 the summer prior to that. So 23, 24. So he's made 4 centuries in 19 innings at an average of 30, 24, 27 and 34. You do the math. So he was nowhere just
it's
because
a bit 1920s, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. And when you compare that to Jake Weatherall, he dominated the Shield last year. And already, he started with 2 half centuries in a match where it was largely low scoring, then the 94 of 92. So, I mean, he made 0 and 12 at the Junction Oval, but that's not how selection works. It wasn't a clear bat-off either. It wasn't even Renshaw versus Weatherall. If they were all even numbers, then maybe you could have called it that. So I think Jake Weatherall has been in for a while. It's just been a question of what the selectors think of Cam Green. In my conversations with them off record, they wanted Manas at 3 and Green at 6. It was just the side strain was a big spanner in the wheels. We're like, oh, what does this mean? But we've heard that he bowled for half an hour the other day after the game, and George Bailey is pretty confident that if he can give 15-20 overs through the game in the next Shield round for Western Australia in Perth as well, I think they'll be more than happy with that playing 11. And that was the Bharat Sundaresan playing 11 on August 5th. But also, I think it's in a weird way. Last year, also, they were looking for an opener, right? And they went for the compromise of Nathan McSweeney. But because Manas and Steve Smith weren't scoring the kind of runs that you were used to from them, and Usman Khawaja was still not not in a slump, but his numbers had started dropping. Australia's batting just looked more brittle last season, as it proved to be in Perth before Steve Smith made the hundreds in Brisbane. and then took off from there. I think so. This year, just because they're in form, it just looks more settled, and it makes sense that they've gone with a specialist opener in Jake Weatherald.
And it could go horribly wrong. Weatherald might not be up to it. Khawaja, it doesn't have it at that level anymore. Labuschagne's run of form is an illusion once he gets back to test level and he gets sorted out, and Smith comes in and has one of those indifferent summers where he doesn't make runs and suddenly Australia are under the pump. But if you've got a bunch of players who, if they perform to their upside rather than their downside, then that should be a pretty strong outlook. Khawaja's the one that I'm concerned about. I think,
yes.
But I've said this before, that they should have worked out the transition and moved on from him some time ago. But it will be most interesting to see whether he can survive and even prosper against serious pace if England get their dream, which would be to have Archer and Wood both play in Perth with a fourth quick, because obviously you can't play three quicks with those two because they're you want them as short burst bowlers. You don't want them to be. I mean, Archer does quite like a longer spell sometimes, but that's 5 or 6 overs, not 7, 8, 9 overs. Wood's probably more a 3-4 over spell kind of bowler. So if you have those two, you need 2 other quicks, and that's what they'll want to do, and that'll be the real test. If Khawaja can get through that, then he can still do it at this level. So Webster would be floating around as the option to come in as an all-rounder. Inglis is the spare bat keeper, and then Brendan Doggett and Sean Abbott are the backup quicks, which various parts of the internet are furious about because Michael Neese is not there. Michael Neese is not. What's the point? He could be the 5th quick in the squad. He's not going to play. I suppose, and probably if they had 2 injuries, I suspect they'd probably bring in Neese ahead of Abbott anyway, because that's always been the way that it, like, I don't understand the sort of pointless ceremonial 5th pick of the player that they don't play, but Abbott's been in so many squads and he's never picked, even in the one-day team, comes in occasionally, plays the odd game here or there, but never gets picked to play a test. So I don't know. It's a slightly mysterious one. I don't know if you've got any insight on why that continues to happen.
I think he had a good Shield season last year. And the moment Brendan Doggett was injured before the tour to the Caribbean, he was there at the WTC finals, if you remember. Sean Abbott was the one who was called in. And I think he did a press conference immediately after landing in Barbados. And he still harbors the dream of getting that baggy green. But he wasn't fully expecting that call up either. So, and as these things work out, yes, they've named 15 now, but it'll be one of those things where as you get to say, so the first test is November 21st. By the time you get to 17th, 18th, you can easily see a couple of them being released back to playing in the last round of the Shield before the Christmas break, or the BBL break. It is very ceremonial. Like, you don't need 15 players for a squad for a home test when the season's on as well. So,
sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I still do think Michael Neese would be ahead of anyone else, especially depending if Mitchell Starc is the one who is replacing, as we've discussed before. What surprised me was not even Michael Neese not being there. I thought this was a great opportunity to bring someone like Fergus O'Neill or someone young to just into the mix, like get them sort of in and around the group and just get them a bit of
make them
a taste
think about it. The
just
possibility that they might be vaguely there. He took more wickets in the Shield, Fergus O'Neill, 6 more in the match, which Victoria won playing Tassie, where Weatherald didn't make runs, but didn't matter. Marcus Harris made 100 in the middle order. Too late, Marcus Harris.
Too late, Marcus Harris, yeah.
Too late, she cried. Western Australia drew against South Australia. Bancroft and McSweeney both made hundreds. Too late, Bancroft. Too late, McSweeney. Cooper Connolly made 50 and not out to save the game, so we'll probably be batting at 6 by the second test, given the way things go with Cooper Connolly and Australian selectors. Brendan Doggett took 6 for 48, so good to go. And Queensland drew with New South Wales. Curtis Patterson, 100. Too late, Curtis Patterson.
Too late.
But the comeback story is still on. The helicopter out of Silverwater jail is going to happen at some point for Curtis Patterson. Jack Clayton made 100 for Queensland. Khawaja got close to 100, so that's something to start things off. But that is the way that things panned out in the Shield. We've got the England Central Contracts list as well. So if we're talking about players, we might as well breeze through this because there are a couple of interesting talking points here. England do some 2-year contracts and some 1-year contracts, unlike Australia, where everything's 1 year, isn't it? Am I still right about that? I am still right about that. So Archer, interesting given how little he's played, but they're still invested in the Archer dream, has a 2-year gig. Gus Atkinson, Jacob Bethel, the anointed golden child, who's got that 2-year deal. Harry Brook, unsurprisingly. Joss Butler, interesting that they're backing him to go at least another 2 more years.
2027 World Cup, yeah.
Yep, now that he's not captaining that white ball team. Bryden Cass will be the workhorse. Sam Curran, who's more white ball than red. Ben Duckett, who's been their best performer in, well, not their best in tests, but their best in ODIs and very consistent in tests. Will Jack's the weird pick in that Ashes squad. Adil Rashid, 2 more years. He's going to be fucking 52 by that point.
Yeah, I know. He's been around forever. He's
still sort of the only spinner they really trust in short form cricket. So they're going for him. Joe Root, who will have broken Sachin's record by the time he's finished his next 2-year deal.
If he plays 2 years.
Not quite slight exaggeration, but if he keeps going the way he has, he'd
be close, and then that's when
runs.
Test cricket will be retired because India will not allow anyone to go past Tendulkar.
The format will go on a 5-year moratorium.
Or England will never be allowed to play Test cricket again. Nobody will play them. Yeah.
Either that or Tonya Harding's going to sort out Joe Root's kneecaps. Jamie Smith is there. Ben Stokes, so that says 2027 Ashes is what they're thinking with Stokes, which would be interesting. Josh Tongue is on that 2-year list. So, questions out of that. Well, particularly the Stokes 2027 bit.
Yeah.
What happens if they get whitewashed this time around? What if it's 4-0, 5-0 in the way?
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. I hope it's not going to happen because it will be less interesting than. I would like to see a competitive Ashes series in Australia as a professional person covering cricket, because 2010-11 I was watching it, but I wasn't working in the game. And by God, I've written more than enough pieces about some 5th-tier Australian player trouncing England on day 4 at the SCG when everyone's exhausted. But if they get smashed here, I mean, normally you get smashed in Australia, you get sacked. That's how English captaincy works. Yeah. But this is basically saying that Ben Stokes will be captain of this side no matter what happens through until the 2027 Ashes, which is it's a bold position to take.
I wonder if it's just to make him feel more like maybe it's one of those with this Ashes coming up, and I've said it many times. Everything that's happened in the last 4 years is about this Ashes, right? Like whether you want to call it baseball or whatever else. This is their WrestleMania main event. So if it wasn't to work out, and like you said, if it is 4-0 or 3-0 or 5-0, whatever, and then England, even if it's 4-1 for that matter, there will be a change of guard, you would think. Like, what's the point, right? In many ways. So, and with Ben Stokes' body, the way it's been, I mean, the way, he had to miss a test match. Like, even the warrior that he is, he had to miss a very crucial test match, which probably if he plays, England win at the Oval to beat India in that series. So, it is a bold call. I almost feel like it's their way of saying, look, it's up to you, Ben. We want you there till 2027. Because, I mean, even just because they're handing him a 2-year contract doesn't mean he can't retire, right? Like, say if England managed to win, even then, what a great way it would be for him to walk away, if you think about it. Because, and purely I say that because England plays so much Test cricket and they don't play anything against India or Australia till that 2027 Ashes. Those are the big games or the big series. So yeah, I can't see a big incentive for him to continue on if they do win here, because I mean, they didn't win in England, but they drew the series at least, and it's all about winning in Australia for them, this whole concept of baseball. So it is. I think it's almost a way of saying thank you, Ben Stokes, for whatever you've done. Here you go. You have 2 years for you to decide what you want to do.
Golden handshake kind of thing. You have a nice parting gift, like Johnny Bairstow, who got his 2-year deal about 6 weeks before he got sacked. after that
You see?
World Cup.
Great example,
Best,
yeah.
best deal he ever signed in his life. Zach Crawley's signed a 1-year deal. So this is interesting. So Duckett's got 2 years, Crawley's got one. They're finally putting Crawley on notice. They're saying, you've only got 1 more year.
To
1
do
more
what
year to
you
make
do.
some runs. But if he doesn't make any runs by the 9th of January, surely he's gone as well.
Yeah.
So they'll give him a new deal now, and then he'll play for maybe not
2
even
months.
2 more months, just past 2 months, and then potentially not be required for the rest of that deal, which is interesting. But I wonder about the dynamics with the openers, where one's got the 2-year deal and the other's got the one hanging over them. Mark Woods, 1 year, no surprises there. He's older and his limbs fall off on a regular basis, like one of those crash test dummy toys that we used to have in the 90s. Ollie Pope, 1 year. That's interesting too, given he's being shuffled down the pecking order with the Bethel
Captain to
thing and the
vice
vice
captain,
captaincy
yeah.
being taken off him and all of that. And now he's down to the 1 year where, the favoured kids, including Bethel, are on the 2. There's quite a lot of, internal politics going on within this list, Bharat.
Yeah, there seems to be like some subtle messages being sent to players, good and bad. Like we said, Stokes and even Josh Butler, those are the positive messages. But to some of these others, Zach Crawley, who's blown hot and cold throughout his career, but I think the number of test matches he's played, 1 more year, and he might end up playing his 100th test with. I know Johnny Bairstow probably still holds the record for the lowest batting average for a sort of specialist batter to play 100 tests. I think Zach Crawley
Craig Brathwaite knocked him off.
Oh, Craig Brathwaite did knock him off, and we were there, weren't we, for that 100 test?
Yeah,
so
he did hold. Bairstow did hold the record, but
he did. Yeah, that's what
Craig with
yes.
2 Gs with his 32 career mark, managed to take care of that in the end. On the 1 year list, also, this is interesting. Rayan Ahmed, Shoaib Bashir, and Liam Dawson, the 3 spinners on there. Jack Leach doesn't get a contract, which I know Adam is seething about wherever he is in the world. He's quietly ticking about the fact that Leach is out, but those are the 3 spinners. So interesting that Dawson's got one, even though he's played so little and wasn't picked in this squad because of the Ashes squad, because Will Jacks was. And then their sort of backup group of quick, Sonny Baker, who they like the look of, and we like the look of here and there. Saqib Mahmood, Jamie Overton, Matthew Potts, Luke Wood, and then they've got randomly Phil Salt thrown in there, who's been bludgeoning stuff at the top of the order in the white ball form. So that's the England contracts list. That's who they're looking at as being the ones who'll carry them forward over the next couple of years. In some cases, or perhaps 2 months in other cases. I think we should go to a break. I'm going to remind you about the work of Maurice Blackburn. If you are somebody in Australia who needs support in the legal system and you need a law firm that's not going to rinse you, that's not going to charge you amounts of money that you don't have, because a lot of the time if you go to talk to Maurice Blackburn and they look at your case, they'll say we can do this on a no-win, no-fee basis. They operate on that basis a lot of the time, and they're about looking after workers, sticking up for working people. They've been doing that since 1919, and we've been telling you about case studies where they've been helping out particularly people who are injured in the workplace, whether that's needing compensation through their superannuation insurance or through other mechanisms of obtaining workplace compensation. It's the kind of work that they do for people who don't have representation in the legal system. So chat to them if you're somebody who needs that sort of representation. They've got offices around Australia. Maurice Blackburn, number 1 plaintiff law firm in the country. Details in the show notes. Bharat?
I'm just saying number 1.
You're just saying number 1. I thought you were just giving me out or something. You were just practicing your umpiring down the screen. It depends which way. Are you a forward? Do you do a finger?
I'm a forward guy.
Finger
I'm
forward.
a forward guy. Yeah, I don't do the...
Okay, and you don't do a Rudy sidearm.
No.
Point.
Yeah, pretty. Yeah, I do the little nod, and then I just give them. I don't do the growing up. I always thought if I become an umpire, I'll do the Daryl Harper, but then
the round the clock face.
And then the little but I got to know Daryl really well, so it will be. Unless he says he gives me a blessing to go ahead and do a Daryl Harper, I shouldn't be doing it.
This is a signature move. It needs to be passed on like the team song.
That's how it works in wrestling.
That's how it works in wrestling. All right, break time. We'll be back in a second. It is the final word. It's the weekly show with Geoff Lemon and Bharat Sundaresan as cricket news moves on around the world. But a particularly sad note this week, and we wanted to send out a greeting and condolences to the family and the friends and the teammates of Ben Austin. A dreadful story that came through during the week where it was in the nets for Ferntree Gully Cricket Club, a part of Melbourne that's quite close to my heart for a number of reasons, and it was warming up for a T20, hit in the nets by a sidearm throw. And, the reports are still a bit vague about this, but he was wearing a helmet. He wasn't wearing a neck guard. It's not fully clear if it was exactly the same kind of injury as the one that Philip Hughes suffered, but it seems likely at this point that it was at least adjacent to that. So nobody wants to jump in at this early stage to talk about who should have done what and how things might have been prevented. But he was hit in the neck. He was hospitalised, was immediately in strife and ended up passing away from the injury. It's just a horrible, horrible story, and it's one that has that horrible ring of familiarity that we've heard before. Ben, apparently an absolute cricket nuffy, footy umpire as well, just hugely invested in his sport and very well-loved kid at the club. So it's shattering for everybody at the club and for the other kid involved who was throwing the ball, who's in the sort of Sean Abbott position of being the unwittingly involved person in such a horrible event. And obviously that'll affect that kid as well. He'll be replaying that. It's just one of those stories you read and your heart goes through the floor.
Yeah, and it was a somber tribute that 82,000 people and the two teams at the MCG paid to young Ben Austin the other day before the T20I, and just looking around the commentary box and just looking around the crowd and looking at the players from both the Indian and the Australian teams. So they had placed Ben's cap on a little podium there, as they do, and as everybody stood for the minute silence. And just I had my binoculars out. I was looking at some of the faces in the Indian camp because none of the Australian players would have known Ben, but for the Indian players, different culture and all of that. But even on their faces, you could see that you could see they were kind of imagining themselves in that position, because we've all been there, or you've known someone who's there. You've had a kid who's been there. I mean, no parent ever, should ever have to bury their child, but no parent also should ever have to drop off their child at cricket training or for a cricket game and think, oh, that's the last time you're going to see them. So you could sense that feeling all around the ground, Geoff, however old the person was. And you couldn't help but get a tear in your eye. And you're right, I've also heard the same things about him. Loved everything, and you could see even the people from his footballing umpiring community were heartbroken for what had happened. And yeah, I mean, it just, again, is another sad reminder of how hard that cricket ball is. And we're not involved in in contact sport, but there are some spots in your body where when that ball hits you with force, it can do some crazy damage. And yeah, I guess what all we can do is, the next time we play a game of cricket or we are at a game of cricket, just think of Ben and his family, and enjoy it for what it is, because who knows, right, when your time's up. So yeah, it's very, very sad, and I'm glad that was very classily done, the tribute to him. His photo went up on the big screen when that was happening. So yeah, sad, very, very sad.
Yeah, and his dad came out and spoke about cricket and said that that was the game that he loved, and that there shouldn't be people looking to blame the sport for what's happened. But and you have millions and millions of balls that get faced, but there have been enough of these injuries in a similar sort of way now that have had similar outcomes. So there are a few other cases at lower levels aside from the Philip Hughes case, if you look into it. So it is something that I think cricket authorities need to keep seeing if there's a way to try to reduce these cases, because they're rare, but they're devastating when they do come around.
And just on that, and Ben obviously was batting, but uh, I think the bigger the bats get, and the more and more we're seeing, white ball cricket, the way it's
Mm,
being played, how hard it gets hit. Uh,
mm,
you speak to a lot of bowlers at professional level. They don't bowl in the nets during T20 training because the ball gets hit back at them, and in the net you
mm,
have no give. You can't go anywhere either.
yeah.
And that is at the professional level, but it can happen even at at a lower level where kids are even the couple of games I umpired a couple few weeks ago, under 14, under 15, the kids are hitting the ball so hard. So it's that's another thing as well, as should bowlers start getting some sort of protection in the nets when they're bowling, because at that level you're not going to have net bowlers or throwdown guys. So so there's so many things that can go wrong. And you speak to some players and they are kind of surprised or pleasantly surprised and like happy that more accidents like those haven't happened, across the board. So yeah, I mean, it just, like I said, it's a hard ball and it can do some serious damage. So
Mm,
better try to find more and more ways to protect everyone, like from kids to
mm.
adults, as much as possible.
We're sending our love to Ben's family, and I hope that his memory is a blessing to you. Sean Williams in Zimbabwe, we're moving across to that side of the world, who's been moved on, I suppose you could say, by Zimbabwe cricket. He's pulled out of a qualifying tournament to go into rehab, saying that he's been struggling with drug addiction. This comes just after that Brendan Taylor comeback, where drug addiction was also involved in him and his financial problems, and the fact that he got mixed up with spot fixers and served his 3.5 year ban. And we talked about it as a redemptive moment when he came back to play for Zimbabwe after serving that ban. But then Sean Williams, who's the other veteran, the other stalwart, those two have played such long careers together and have gone through so much together. But the fact that Williams has bailed out, presumably because there would have been drug testing and he wouldn't have been confident about passing it. But Zimbabwe cricket have given a supportive sort of statement and said that they respect what he's contributed and they hope that he's able to get the help that he needs, but that he can't be involved anymore because it's been too many times with sort of erratic availability, coming and going, resigning and signing up again, and so on across the Sean Williams career.
Yeah, it's been a pretty enigmatic career. The fact that it lasted over 20 years. And I got to know Sean pretty well during the T20 World Cup in 2022. It was in Hobart. I think this is that first round of games,
Mm.
Zimbabwe, Ireland, Scotland, West Indies. And I bumped into him. As I do, I bump into people a lot, as you know, Jeff, and like people in the comments always remind me
Hmm.
of that. I bumped into him in a pub in Hobart, as you do. And yeah, we really hit it off. And it's funny, I remember sitting in for, like, not by choice. It was me, Sean Williams, and Niall O'Brien, who was doing commentary at that point, and them discussing, how long Sean has left. And, because I was right there, my opinion was sought as well. And even back then, he was wondering whether, it was time for him to move on or not. And this is before Zimbabwe qualified for the main round, and then they did pretty well, didn't they? Beat Pakistan and all of that. But yeah, and you speak to, and he's a very affable guy. I mean, he's a friendly guy, but he's always had these issues, like, on and off with Zimbabwe cricket that you mentioned, and disciplinary, if not issues, there's always like question marks about disciplinary stuff over time. But there was this feeling that, like, as he got into his 30s and mid 30s, and he's 39 now,
Mm.
like, he'd overcome a lot of that and he was more settled. And in yeah, but addiction, that's the thing, it can come anytime. And you might have, if you're an addict, naturally some people are, and you never know when it can suck you back in. So we don't know
Hmm.
details about what kind of drug addiction this is. But yeah, I mean, I think the time had come for Zimbabwe cricket to just say, yeah, I don't think this can continue anymore. So
Mm.
um, hopefully he's doing well wherever he is, and he can get back on his feet, even if it doesn't mean he can come back and play international cricket like Brendan Taylor
Yeah.
has. Because I think, yeah, he still has a lot to give back to. Because one thing I did learn from the time I spent with him was he's still very passionate about Zimbabwe cricket, and that can only be a
Right.
good thing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, right, in order to keep fronting up and playing,
Very
whatever
true.
your personal demons are, or the the fights, the conflicts that he's got into with administrators and the reasons that he's cracked the shits and walked out at different times. It's not like playing for Zimbabwe is a tough road in international cricket terms. You're never in the spotlight. You're always scrapping for the occasional chance to go to a big tournament, but aside from that, you're on the sort of second tier circuit. You're not getting paid much, if at all. You're waiting years to get paid some of the time. There's all the internal politics. Like, you'd have to really have a love for it to be able to put in.
Yeah. Oh, 21 years. And yeah, I mean, look, without divulging too much, and that was pretty much what he seemed to be talking about with Niall O'Brien about back then, 3 years ago, about how much he had given to Zimbabwe cricket, but how much he enjoyed giving to Zimbabwe cricket even then at that stage of his career, because he's an old 39, right? When you play 21 years
Right.
of international cricket, I mean, he's 3 years short of getting to Sachin Tendulkar levels, which is kind of a quarter of a century, is something insane. So yeah, I mean, it's a long career, but he's been such a fixture. I mean, if you just kind of put it into context, for 2005, he's playing with the likes of probably Andy Blignaw and those guys. So to go
Murray
from there
Goodwin,
to towards the end of maybe, like, I think, but then Goodwin was gone, 2005. But yeah, even bit of Grand Flower here and there. So you're talking a different era of Zimbabwe cricket. So
totally.
He's then the big break and all of that. So yeah, he's between him and Brendan Taylor, they've taken turns almost to be in the Zimbabwe team and then being away. But this seems to be the final nail in that coffin.
That's it. Hearts stopped across the lime green areas of Sydney during the week when Ravichandran Ashwin divulged that he's done a knee at a training camp. He was getting his fitness up to come and play in the Big Bash, and he's out. He's out of the whole tournament. He wrote a personal letter himself, he says, to explain this, because he seemed to really want to do it, and everything had lined up where he was supposed to play the UAE T20 League, and then that didn't happen, so he was going to have the whole season. I hope it means that he's really determined to come back and play the full season next year. I hope that's how it pans out, because he did seem actually genuinely invested in coming and being part of what Sydney Thunder were putting together. He was so complimentary about Trent Copeland and the administration there and wanting to be part of it. So I hope that does knock on in 12 months' time. But we were pretty pumped to see Ashwin do what he could do in the Big Bash and bring some extra spice to it, but that won't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I just chanced upon that Instagram post. I think it had been up for 11 minutes, and I immediately messaged Trent Copeland because he was so excited about it. And we've had multiple conversations, Trent and I and Ashwin and I, about what it could mean. And it wasn't just him playing for Sydney Thunder. There were other deals as well, where, like, I played a part in some of them, and the others that he had himself tried to sort out around the BBL and around him playing for Sydney Thunder. But yeah, I mean, Trent Copeland was quite heartbroken. But the one thing that I'm hearing is that they're still trying to get him over for in January sometime to be at some of the games and maybe even do some media. So he's still very, very keen. That much I do know about Ashwin and Thunder. So if not this year, then next year we'll have to wait a whole year. But it does feel like the fizz has gone out of the drink. It just felt like this could be the BBL, and because there's such a strong push for private investment. There was this other news report that I might know a thing or two about Ravi Shastri being called for a meeting by Todd Greenberg and all the other stakeholders to try to give them a picture of what private investment looks like and what some of the Indian IPL teams might want with regards to having sort of a stake in the BBL. So those things are going. So Ashwin's thing was supposed to be a pivot point, but I think even the fact that Ashwin could have come or would have come without the injury is probably enough for those conversations to go ahead. So yeah, maybe he might have already done his part, but yeah, I think we will see him next year for sure.
And most people who were invested in this, sort of at a corporate level or whatever, they just want to take the selfie with Ashwin, right? Like they don't care if he's playing or not. So as long as he comes out and takes the pictures in the boardrooms and whatever it is, he could play for Sydney Thunder till he's 50. He might have I don't know, what is it, another 9 seasons or something after this one. just he's bowling off breaks. It's not that hard, is it? Just wheel him down. Kane Williamson has retired from T20 internationals. This is weird, Bharat. The whole Kane Williamson situation is weird. It's been weird for a while. So the plan, as I understood it, was he's on the freelance bit, so he hadn't taken a central contract, but he was doing his freelance leagues and whatever. But he would still be available at times. He would play test matches. He'd play in the World Cup. He'd do some lead up for the World Cup. So he skipped the Australia T20 series a few weeks ago. Then he skipped the England series, which he sort of was talked. It was talked about that he might play it, but he didn't, and they cited something medical. Whereas the Australia one, they cited, I don't know, rest, availability, whatever it was. Then he was going to play this series against West Indies that's just started, and just before it's begun, he's pulled out. It's not because he wasn't going to be picked for the World Cup, because Rob Walter says, the coach says, that he was going to be picked. He was supposed to play these lead-up games and was in the plans, as they say. What's going on with Kane Williamson? Like, I'm gonna fire off first because I'm a little irritated by this. Yeah. With all of the New Zealand, the New Zealand cliches, everyone's like New Zealand nice guys, and I've pushed back on that a few times where there are some things administratively where I think they've been very much not nice guys. They've been unimpressive in some ways. Yes, some of the nice things are true, but not all of the nice things are true. And then Kane Williamson gets very much put up as one of the nicest nice guys, and he has put in for New Zealand for many, many years, to be fair, across all the formats and all the rest of it. But just the last few years, it's been very strange in terms of like half-heartedness, not wanting to commit to this or that, being vague. And when he said he was going to retire, it was so vague. It was meaningless. He was like, oh, it's the right time. It's 3 months before a World Cup.
Yeah.
That you were the right time? Yeah. You were in the planning for, that they were relying on you for. And I don't necessarily think a New Zealand T20 team without Kane Williamson is that much worse off, or necessarily worse off at all, because I think he's scored too slowly in T20 cricket for a long time for New Zealand and tried to be too much of an anchor, and they might be freed up without him. It might not be the worst possible result for them. But he's been relied on in some degree to the planning, then he's bailed at the last minute, and it's like, why are you being like this? Like, do something or not. Like, decide you're going to play or don't. It's been, I think, self-centered in the last couple of years. It's been about what he wants to do, and when he could have cleared out of the way if he'd wanted to 18 months ago or whatever it was, and at least given them room to decide what they were going to do after him.
And this comes in the wake of he signed up in, was it with Lucknow or Gujarat? Like one of the franchises where he's in some sort of advisory role, like in the coaching mentor type role. I don't know his exact role, but that's been announced recently as well. But I think, do you remember like maybe 18 months ago, there was similar focus on South African cricket as to like what could be their future, where will Rabada go, especially after they send that second string, third string team to New Zealand. And as always, New Zealand just slipped under the radar, where it started with the whole Bolt situation, but you never thought Kane Williamson would be a guy who would say no to a central contract, and then that happened. And it's bizarre things happening in New Zealand cricket where you can't really put your finger on, and this seems...
I didn't mind him saying no to the contract, because I think he could say, look, I've done my service, I've done my time, fair enough, long career, 30 test hundreds, all the rest of it, mad respect. And to then go, okay, well, I'm going to pick and choose a bit more for this last couple of years, but I'll be available for the important stuff. But you got to then be available for the important stuff. And there you go. And the stuff that I think even Rob Walter was talking about a few weeks ago about not knowing what Williamson's plan was for the upcoming summer because he wasn't telling them. There's a point at which it's not all about you, and it doesn't matter how glittering your career is and how many games you've played and all the rest of it. You got to tell someone if you're coming to their party or not. And if you tell them you're coming to the party, you show up and you bring the snacks that you said you would bring, And currently, he ain't bringing snacks.
No, I mean he's just doing that very Indian thing of like we all have done it, and I can culturally appropriate it. I am originally from there, of just like let's just not like show up. Yeah. Just put your phone on silent. Let's just like not go, and that's what he's doing. And then let the party go on, and it could be you might be bringing important snacks, Jeff. By you might be the one
He
who's
sent a text to say that he's just about to get in the shower, and then he'll be on the way, and then he's gone silent. He's just completely gone blank and hasn't showed up. And he's bringing the cabana cheese platter, and without that, the whole balance of the snacks is ruined.
Completely gone. Yeah, it's not a very Kane Williamson thing to do as someone who,
but
has
it is
been the
now.
nicest.
That's what he's been like for the last little while.
He is, yeah. I mean, are you saying that if we ever organize a party and Kane Williamson is a potential to be on the guest list, we quietly leave him out of it, or we still?
I'm just saying, don't rely on him. He could be one of the.
Okay, we'll keep the whatever. Snacks he's supposed to bring. We'll still keep some backup. That's a better. I wouldn't mind Kane Williamson at a party, but yeah.
You just tell him to bring something. You just say, bring some extra wine, right? Because you know that I'm going to have enough wine anyway. And if he shows, fine. If he doesn't, fine. That's the way that I'm seeing it. Lastly, on the list of things that are mildly annoying to me personally, James Anderson has a knighthood. Well, he's been knighted. We sort of knew it was on the way, I think, but it's officially done. He's had the shoulders dusted with the sword at Windsor Castle for services to cricket, for taking 700 test wickets. It just makes me sick. Knighthoods. Knighthoods. It's so craven, crawling to rich people who decided that they're better than you, in the same couple of weeks as the royal family's like quietly sidelining their member who's like Jeffrey Epstein's best mate. They're also like, we get to tell you that you're good by giving you a title. I'm a bit surprised that Anderson went along with it. He seems like a phlegmatic, practical sort of taciturn northern type. I'm surprised he wouldn't have gone, not for me. I don't need to go along and dress up all frippery and be told by some, home counties type posho that I'm now allowed to sit in the same room as them because I've got a thing in front of my name. Something about the knights thing. I don't mind people getting a gong of some sort, thanks for your service, even though most of those things have been hopelessly politicised to the point that they're effectively meaningless. But you look around and look at some of the other people who've got knighthoods, and they include some of the worst people in the entire UK. So I'm not sure why anyone would agree to sign up to it. But he has, and he'll join the rank of cricketing knights whose titles also annoy me whenever people obsequiously bow and refer to Sir Andrew Strauss and Sir Alistair Cook and Sir Geoffrey Boycott, and on it goes.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't know the answer to this one, but like, what does happen if you say no? I mean, does that have any impact on your, social standing, or it's?
I don't think so. People have knocked them back before, who just didn't think it was their vibe, or who were doing it for more of a protest reason. They can't lock you up in the Tower of London anymore for disrespecting the royal family. Maybe they're bringing it back. Maybe the Conservatives' plan. Maybe if Farage gets in, he'll bring back Tower of London penalties for disrespecting King Charles. But at this stage, I think you're pretty safe. I think you probably get some kudos from some corners of society for saying, good on you for not playing along. That's the part that bugs me, I think, is the conformity. Well, I better do it because they asked me, so it would be rude not to.
Or, look, I mean, he has a successful podcast, and as podcasters ourselves, I think would it make for a better episode if you do get knighted or if you say no to it? Depends on.
It's much more interesting to knock it back. Way more interesting. It gives you a talking point. Yeah. If you're interviewing, if we're doing a podcast the week that I've refused a knighthood, that's much more interesting than the week that I got one. Heaps of people get them. Not many people turn them down.
Say no. Did I see David Beckham got it the same day as Jimmy Anderson? Because I
I
know he
don't
got
know.
it as well. I
Okay.
don't know. It just popped up in my news
Yeah.
feed. So,
Well, that
yeah.
tells you enough, right? Like for services to fragrances, David Beckham gets his knighthood. Like you don't need to give baubles to people who are already massive celebrities. I think this is the other thing that shits me.
That's a
If
good
you go
point.
and you go give a knighthood to someone who's spent their life working to represent underprivileged people in a tough job with no kudos and no praise, fine. You give a knighthood to a guy who spent 20 years making millions and millions of pounds playing an international sport where he got applauded and given adulation wherever he went around the country and a lot of places that he went around the world. And he's now going to have a nice, comfortable, lucrative post-playing career doing media and whatever else he wants to do. He doesn't need a prize. He doesn't need to be patted on the head and told he's a good boy. He's got 700 test wickets. He's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine.
He's got his own bowling end at Old
Yeah.
Trafford. He's
He's got
got
his own bowling end. He's got a
mm,
commemorative 175th test cap with the little piping on it that they presented to him, pride of place in the pool room. I'm sure he's good. Jimmy's
he's
fine.
good.
He doesn't need a pat on the head from a royal. Sort yourselves out. Stop crawling. Other people are not better than you. They're just other people. That is my message to the
All right.
broader
Well done.
power
That's a
structure of the
strong
United
message.
Kingdom, which will go down well, I'm sure. A last little bit, a little upbeat bit to finish. The Knight Stokes Cup, as in Heather Knight, Ben Stokes. So MCC have put this out in sort of, I suppose it's in response to the Eton Harrow kind of controversy that's gone on for the last few years. Okay, let's have a competition for secondary state schools. And they've called it the Knight Stokes Cup, and it's going to be played in June each year, or at least the final will be. It'll start in April. And the idea is to give cricket a boost in state schools where it's been so difficult to play. So many grounds were sold off and turned into lucrative real estate. It's so few players come out of the state school system in terms of elite level, even county level, let alone England level. So they'll play this. They'll start this sort of knockout rounds. They've got over 1,000 clubs have signed up to play in this, which is great. And they'll have the final of it in September on the main oval at Lords. So those secondary school players will be able to play in that final on the big ground. So I think the numbers at the moment, 1,084 boys and girls team from 750 secondary state schools across the UK. So that's fun. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe we can even go one day.
Oh, it'll be a lot of fun. Especially for the finals to, I mean, some of us get lucky to, when you're touring or you're a journalist or part of the media pack, you end up playing some games at some pretty cool venues. Adam Collins, our own Adam Collins, obviously has played a lot of games at Lords from what I've heard. So yeah, what a special moment it'll be for those kids if they get to do that. And you never know. I mean, even if like say 5 out of those 1,000+ kids you mentioned plays that game at Lords and feels like, ooh, this is something I want to do for a living. It's a good thing because it's been a recurring issue over there in the UK for a while, hasn't it? So and I think it's got a good ring to it. The Stokes Knight Cup. Yeah, it sounds like a move in chess, though. He's pulling off the Stokes Knight, the maneuver, and yeah, I don't know what it does, but
It's the move where one of your chess pieces goes to a nightclub, gets wasted, and then punches out a guy in the street. That's the move. Anyway,
okay.
that's my
Then.
note
All right. I
to
thought we were
end.
ending on a. Hey, can I just say,
Yeah.
because we spoke about this off air, I just came across the Indian Heaven Cricket League and I just had to talk about it.
Okay,
Because
please.
it just popped up on my Facebook feed of all places where Jesse Ryder was walking out to bat for
Jesse
some
Ryder.
team. Jesse Ryder from New Zealand.
How old's Jesse Ryder?
I don't know. And I don't know why. I mean, not old enough to be playing in a league called the Indian Heaven Cricket League, but
In whereabouts is it?
in Jammu Kashmir, like so up in the north.
Okay.
So, and then
Controversial.
so this picture was probably from a few days ago because then I Googled it and I found out, well, You know it. The Chris Gale involved as well, Jesse Ryder, and now they're all stuck there sort of because nobody's paying them. So, well, yeah, it's you can call it whatever you want. So yeah, Indian heaven.
What did you think was going to happen? What? When will these cricketers get paid first?
I
Get paid
know.
first. Don't go unless you're playing. Is it a T20 league?
Yeah.
Indian Heaven T20, like a state, like a JK, like Premier
No, it's
League
not
type
even,
thing, or
and
is it even lower than that?
it's just lower because it's privately
Okay.
run. So it's
So
not
it's
even like a.
okay. So a bunch of private entrepreneur dudes want to have you play in a T20 tournament. Get paid first. If you're a former Sri Lanka player going to play for Endeavour Hills in their local T20 comp, get paid first.
Yes.
Because that money might have been embezzled from somewhere, and you need to get the cash and you need to leave the country. You need to have that cash wired into the Caymans somewhere, irretrievable, before you take guard. Do not play until you get paid. That is my
And
advice.
do you think the name of the league should also be kind of considered, before you sign up for it? I'm surprised Chris Gale is there, not because Chris Gale is there, but because he understands, from what little interactions I've had with him about T20 leagues, he generally knows the ones where he will get paid and the ones who, so for him to go to a league where he's, by all reports, not getting paid at the moment.
Is he short on cash? Does he need Indian Heaven? And it sounds like a restaurant, Indian Heaven.
It does. For
the crispiest pakoras you will ever taste. Indian Heaven.
Yeah, where the menu card will never say papads, it'll always be papadoms. Yeah, papadoms. It's one of those. It'll be like, I know.
Indian food for white people. Indian Heaven.
Where the spice is always mild. Yeah, I know it's a strange one. I didn't expect to see Jesse Ryder pop up on my social media.
He's only 41.
He's a year older. He's younger than 40. You and a year older than me.
He's 41 years old. Oh. He's a pup. He
is. All right. Go, Jesse. Yeah. I mean, it's.
I would say get that bag, but you are not, in fact, getting the bag. You are volunteering your time for Indian Heaven so that some rich guy can meet Chris Gale. That's the only reason that any of this happened. Was to get a selfie with Chris Gale. Okay. Thank you, Bharat, for that update. Let us call it there.
Yes.
London book launch November 10. Please come along. If you want to support the show, you want to help us do what we do, please do that. We really need people to do that because that's how it works. That's how we're able to get around the world. That's how we're able to hire 10 different people to work on the Women's World Cup show. Yeah. That's how we're able to pay the staff that we now have to keep things running behind the scenes and travel to all the countries we need to travel to. And all of it comes back to Patreon, patreon.com/thefinalword. That's how it gets funded. You sign up for a membership. It's voluntary. You don't have to do it to listen to the show, but if you do it, there are lots of fun extra things that you get to be involved with, and a lot of people are enjoying doing just that. You can be one of them. Be part of it. Come along. Help us out. If you want to find Maurice Blackburn or Lacuna Sports with their women's and girls cricket kit, all that kind of stuff, information's in the show notes. Bharat Sundaresan, bless you. May your path be lit from above with the warm tones of justice and acceptance. I bid you farewell, and to everybody listening, thank you for doing that. We will see you next time.
That actually sounds like something you would say before you give someone the knighthood. Well, you never know. Maybe that's what they say. Yeah. Maybe.
Or before you shoot them on a boat in a mafia movie or something. Well, you give them the benediction. You have a secret
knighthood that the world doesn't know. Maybe you are Sir Geoff Lemon.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you take the sword that you were being knighted with and turn it on the oppressors. Turn it on the royal hierarchy. I don't know. Just a possibility. On that
note, that's how one of my other favorite movies, La Amistad, starts. So there you go. Just saying.
Yeah. With a sword.
Yeah,
reversal.
Sort of. I mean, he grabs the sword from his captors, and it's a pretty gory scene, but pretty cool movie.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay.
Film recommendations with Bharat Sundaresan. That's it. It's the end of the show. Bye-bye.